Hello and welcome to Cielo Costa's video series on digital transformation in the built environment. We talk to industry leaders and experts about some of the unique challenges in the sector, from legacy digital and physical infrastructure to complex regulatory requirements to the many AI, software and PropTech solutions that are on offer. If you work in the built environment and are looking for some pointers and the perspective of your peers, this might be for you. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for joining me, Douglas. Douglas is Director of Technology at Southern Housing, although on LinkedIn, I think ChatGPT says you're a visionary leader, renowned for your transformative projects and tireless dedication to technological advancements. Would you agree with that statement?
I got it right. Well, of course I'd say so. But I like to poke fun at like modern technology. We can get carried away with our own hype sometimes, I think, and that kind of the way that ChatGPT works, you can play it to your advantage and something like that. I mean, everything it got from articles and things like that, but it just comes across as a sort of tongue-in-cheek thing, which of course is absolutely accurate. And we'll find out through this interview, right?
Yeah, totally. And stepping away from the AI for a minute, back to sort of the normality of conversation. I guess it'd be great just to hear a bit about what Southern Housing does and what your role as the Director of Technology there involves.
Yeah, so we are a large UK housing association. So we've got 77,000 odd properties that we look after for people who really need housing. So I'm sure everyone understands it's a real crucial point to be in housing and something that we really need to do. Technology, I guess, the perspective of housing associations is very much long term. We have housing for 75 years plus, so we've got houses that were built in the 50s, 60s, anytime onwards. And so the perspective of housing associations is long term, whereas the perspective of a technologist is maybe 6 weeks, maybe a bit longer, not 60 years. So the speed at which organisations move depends on the customer base, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that. Our customers we have a long relationship with. We are limited by supply, not by demand. So it changes our makeup. But the crucial thing is we need to make all of the interactions with all of the things people have about their houses and where they live as seamless as possible. And if that's through using technology, that's great. If it's through using other methods, it's great. So the starting point is how can we make things like repairs as smooth as possible? And that's where we go from, really.
Yeah, got it. So it's really thinking about your customer base, or the residents and the communities essentially, and how can tech support them fundamentally.
Yeah, and then also the other side of it is we're huge. So that, like, how do we finance building on new properties and repairs? So there's quite a large financial accounting part of the business that is pretty much all of that. That puts the money back into our customers and creates more social housing. But it's a real kind of corporate approach. And when you're a big housing association, that's where you can really make a difference. All the technology around managing the repairs fleet, working out when's the best time to do a repair, how often we replace kitchens, bathrooms, windows, what's the most effective model of windows and everything like that. You can imagine the sort of data requirements of trying to understand all of that. It's quite a interesting and broad subject. When you start off with just it's someone's house, you end up with multi-million pound programs of replacement of windows and things like that over 20 years. Yeah, it's a real scale goes from here to here.
Yeah, it's interesting that. Jumping ahead somewhat, I know you mentioned you're accountable to the CFO, so obviously it's the finance driving force in rather than CIO is within, from a technology perspective. It's finance must be a big part of your day-to-day considerations.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the world we're in, it's the same for any director of technology, any CIO, but it definitely is, because that's how we make a difference.
Yeah. And then looking back up 2 or 3 years, you mentioned when we spoke before about the merger between Optivo and Southern Housing Group. I think, 2 to 3 years ago. It'd be good to understand what that meant in terms of, maybe challenges, first of all, from a technology and culture perspective of two big organisations coming together, and how's that played out over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so we merged right at the end of 2022, and then I joined in 2023. So right just after the mergers when I joined and took over. two different organizations, two different cultures, two different ways of doing things. And I'm sure lots of your listeners will have gone through a merger and familiar with it. But for us, the merger was really two even size organizations. It's not like a commercial merger. There's no shareholders. So it's not like one comes in and takes over the other and they're the ones. It's much more, you have to work your way through it a lot more than you would. And they had very different technology platforms. He said it was both a cultural change, but what led them to where they were made different things. So for example, it was just to get through COVID, one side of the organization went on to thin clients. So you could just get any laptop and you could use it all. The other side of the organization issued laptops to everyone. So they kept the control of the security of the devices on the device. The other one used Citrix. So either model could kind of work, and in hindsight, one's better than the other, maybe. But then you put them together, cultural impact and the cultural understanding of how you use a tool where it's just a web app and go via Citrix to get to all your desktop from any device is very different to one. No, we supply you a device, you must use that, and here's how you go forward. But we will make it sure, we'll make it consistent and safer and cheaper to run. So that kind of journey just on, well, what do we as Southern Housing want to be, as opposed to what does Optivo want to be, or as it turns out SHG want to be? And there isn't any, no one defines that. You have to kind of work that out as you go.
Yeah. And how do you sort of resolve those sorts of questions in terms of like there's a technical decision there, but there's a cultural and behavioural change decision, and how do you reach the resolution on that?
I mean, because it's all in flux, right? At that point, every part of the business, you kind of know who everyone is at the start of a merger, but the culture hasn't formed itself. So the culture is fluid, and the technology stack is, well, if you plug that into there, you're going to make a hole here. But if you do it the other way, you're going to make a hole there. So you're choosing which hole you want to create, right? And then you fill up. So the only kind of, people are going to, the only advice I've got is you move one step in front of the other, and you gradually improve and improve and improve, and you're continually cycling back round. You can't at the start say, let's not do anything. Let's sit down, work out what our culture is going to be in 6 months' time, what our tech stack is going to be in 6 months' time. You have to come back and kind of, this is the right decision for now, and then we'll cycle around and we'll tie it up together like a kind of zip going up. You gradually bring that zip slowly together, and by the time you've got a nice warm jacket on. Yeah,
interesting. I know you weren't there prior to the merger, but I don't know if you've got any perspective on, hopefully when two companies come together, there was a reason for that, and actually there's something that Southern Housing has resulted as more than the sum of the parts of Optivo and Southern Housing Group. I mean, can you see any real benefits that synergy has brought, either from a tech or more broad perspective?
Yeah, I was at a housing association before that, and we went through a merger as well. So it's actually my second housing merger to go through. Yeah. And both of them, you have to, again, you create a business case at the start that says, this is what the benefits are. So it's quite measurable in terms of the kind of dry paperwork. So we were going to save an X amount of money by merging. And you can measure that, and it shows that we have. So there's the tangible benefits. One of the things that is interesting in this merger is the start of the merger was before the inflation rates, was before all of the economic squeeze that we've had. So the expectation of savings occurred, but then that's been outweighed by the inflationary pressure. So it does kind of add up, but seeing that add up is difficult, because what you're actually doing is saying, well, what would the costs of Optivo plus the costs of SHG be compared to what the costs of SH are now? And you don't know what the costs in reality are. So there's a bit of estimation, and whenever there's estimation, there's optimism bias or negativity bias, depending. But I'm convinced actually that financially we're better off, but also the level of service we're able to give is improved. And our capacity to manage issues and take decisions is improved because we have a larger base of customers, we have a larger base of knowledge. I think we're actually able to move faster and convince government to do things better than we would otherwise been as two separate organisations.
Yeah, I see. And one last question on that sort of coming together. Do you feel, it's been over 2 years now since it happened, do you feel you're now through that sort of stage of coming together, and you're now actually unified organisation looking at optimization moving forward?
Very almost. I think culturally, we're pretty much there.
Yeah.
I say very so. System-wise, it's really complicated to smash two sets of systems together, and it's been a lot of hard work that my team's done.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll come on to that in a bit more detail. But we are now where we've got a single platform, a single set of systems for most of the processes. Why I say very almost is because actually that's only the first part of it. What we've got now is a set of it's like I'm saying, the wheel keeps turning. So we've got a set of systems that are all consistent.
Yeah.
We've got, in theory, a set of processes on all the systems that are documented, but people are still used to working the way they used to work.
Yeah.
And human nature is you never follow a process if you can make it quicker in your own way, right? So there's all these workarounds that existed in both the legacy organizations. Mm-hmm. We've now implemented a new process. So it just takes a bit more adapting to say, actually, that worked for SHG, that worked for Optivo, neither really works for SH. So now we've got to adapt it again to make it work for the new organization. And that's the kind of phase we're in. But that's the exciting bit, right? That's now now we've done the hard work of getting the systems right. Everything we do now improves output, efficiency, productivity for our colleagues and for our customers as we move forward. Now is where we get to show the value of the work we've done.
Yeah. You've got the sort of the fundamentals in place.
Yeah.
We just got to sort of drive it forward with people engaging. Yeah. Cool. Jumping back to sort of that balance of technological innovation and, like you mentioned, things moving very fast and so much opportunity, but as a housing association, always mindful of cost and probably more fundamentally the needs of like residents and communities who you look after. How do you balance the need to try and be technologically agile and move fast with that need of looking after your residents and communities first and foremost?
It is always a difficult one, and as a technologist, you always, your instinct is to go to the new shiny gadget and to want to do things. And frankly, for housing, that doesn't work, because the fail fast methodology is great, because you do, but if you do it too often, all you're doing is failing. And we've got customers at the end of it that need repairs done. So we cannot lose sight of the next boiler repair that needs to be done tomorrow, the next time someone's shower doesn't work and they can't shower. These are all really human things. Yeah. So that has to come first. We cannot fail there. That's someone's life that we're not supporting well enough. Yeah. So we ultimately have to be more cautious for the adoption of technology. It doesn't mean we don't evolve. It doesn't mean we don't do that. We don't move down it. It just means we have to think a bit more about when and how we put it in. We have to engage with our customers more and ask them what they want, and whether that's the customer in a property or it's the people responsible for the fire risk process. All of it's just a bit more involved. Yeah. And the other thing is, like with AI, for example, AI's probably been around. ChatGPT hit the headlines probably 2 years ago now. Yeah. And it was all going to revolutionize everything. Anyone that didn't take ChatGPT within the next 6 months, we're going to be bankrupt by the end of the year, kind of was the hype 2 years ago. And it hasn't happened. And it's not to say that ChatGPT and generative AI isn't revolutionizing everything. Yeah. It's just actually it takes a bit longer to actually change what you're doing. So our approach is always, we don't want to be on the real front of that wave where you can fall off quite easily but there are lots of people that are doing lots of work to generate competitive advantage for their businesses. And that then follows through with sort of commoditized use cases where you can use it. And as we see them coming into housing, we'll definitely take advantage of them. Yeah. We're not going to take risks with customer data. We're not going to take risks with wild moonshots. But when they come and they can use and we can talk about it, actually, this is where it's going to benefit. We're going to jump on it and we're going to use it to our advantage and to the advantage of our customers. And that's kind of the way you go. So kind of, like I say, the geeky technologist of me is that would love to be going faster. Yeah. But actually, in my position, the responsibility is also there to the customers. You have to do it right.
And when you're looking at those opportunities to try out new things from a technology do you work with other housing associations? I guess, can you look at what they've done and succeeded, or are you looking at the industry as a whole? I suppose, how much do you collaborate as a group, or is it really look broadly at the market for inspiration?
No, I mean, I guess that's the positive side of the coin as well, because like we can't. We've got 70,000 houses. We're going to have 70,000 houses next year. We don't grow our business in the same way that a retail company can gain customers. So we're not going to steal customers from A2 Dominion or another housing association.
Yeah.
And therefore, whilst there's competitive pride amongst the sector, we want to be better than Clarion, we want to be better than Peabody, and so on and so forth. Actually, we've all got the same mission, and we can compete and we can learn from each other. And we're often, like as CIOs, director of technologies in housing, we often phone each other up, talk about what we can do, learn from each other. And there are a few housing associations that are able to be a bit more innovative. So we can learn, oh, you've done this, I'll jump on your coattails here. And then another area of the sector, it's the other way around. So it's quite nice that way round.
Yeah.
It's a really collaborative sector.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stepping back a minute for a moment to what you mentioned earlier around, you've had a couple of years since merger to really get the tech stack lined up. It'd be good to understand a bit about, what do you feel has gone well from a tech perspective in terms of how you've actually got your technology stack in a good place, and what have been the benefits of that? I know you're about to go into the optimization phase, but what has been the benefits, and do you feel happy with in terms of actually getting that tech stack into a good place? I
think so. The first bit is always the people. I'm amazed at the hard work the people have put into it, and frankly, I'm amazed that they're still with us. They've gone through that, because we put them through. They've done a hell of a lot of work, and they've worked really hard to get us here. But the end result has been, we are now a secure organisation. We've got Cyber Essentials Plus. We're one of the only, I think there's 4 of the G15, which are the largest housing associations. Only 4 of us have got Cyber Essentials Plus, and we're the only ones that have got it so recently after a merger. So we've spent a lot of effort going in, making sure that we don't compromise on security. I'm always touching wood when I say that, but we've done that work. We've managed to moved almost again, that's the word, almost onto Azure. So we're pretty much cloud-based. We've got a lot of flexibility. We've got a consistent platform. We've done really well at moving at pace. I think 2 years might seem like a long time, but to do a merger, a really complicated root and branch build of a technology estate in 2 years, it's when you've gotten a planning period as well of probably 6 months. We've managed to get pretty much everything done in 18 months of really hard work. And now that's where the benefit pays back. So to do all of that has put us in a really good position. And then the last thing is, we've managed to, over 2 years, cut out £4 million of our technology budget through efficiencies. That's not people efficiencies, it's efficiencies that would have been going on additional licenses, that would have been going on systems that we don't need, that would have been paying for contracts that actually we don't need after the fact. So looking at that basis of putting it together, it's really created a lot of benefit. And all of that money goes straight back into enabling us to do more repairs and eventually getting back to building again. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. A question, I guess, about the community and residents. How much does tech need to go into democratizing digital, if you like, in terms of technology systems and platforms that they need to access, whether it's getting in touch with the housing association or just doing things online they didn't previously? I mean, is that necessary? Is that a priority? How much do you sort of invest tech into that aspect?
I mean, I guess it's how you classify digital, isn't it? It's that conversation. So we talk a lot about digital exclusion, and a lot of our residents face digital exclusion. If you limit digital to just being a portal, a website, the value you get from that is limited.
Yeah.
If you flip digital to being it's a culture, a methodology of how we run the business, then it doesn't matter how many of our tenants use the website. It's how many of the repairs are digitally ran. And so if it's supplying digital services that are either digital assisted or go via our call center but become onto a digital channel in that way.
Yeah, I see.
Then I think there's a real lot of value in there. So, and I phrase it in that because I think if you're in the retail business, you really focus on customer gain and going down digital because it's faster.
Yeah.
But also you are multi-channel, you're omni-channel kind of approach by default. In housing, we don't tend to think about digital businesses. We think about a website and we think about telephony and we think about face-to-face housing officers going out on the street. So the idea that all three of those can be digital is new to them.
Yeah.
And so that's where we've got to think. But I think definitely streamlining all of those processes and using digital methodology is something we do and something that pays a lot of dividends.
Yeah, brilliant. So last year you mentioned you were upgraded to a G1 governance rating. I just figured to explain briefly what that means, and then in what respects, if any, technology sort of contributed to that and helps keep that going.
Yeah, so the regulated social housing is our version of Ofsted. So they come in and do a report on every housing association, every regulated provider. We don't have the one words, but we do have, historically we've had two. We've had governance and viability. And then recently they've added in customer as the third one. And those ratings go from 1 to 3. And we've had, at merger point, we had a G2 rating and no one really wants a G2 rating. So we put a lot of effort to get back up to G1. And we did it successfully. And it's all about governance. So you have to be able to show what your processes are, how the board gets its information, they're making information on the correct basis, that if you're making investment decisions, it's evidenced. If you're making changes, again, you evidence that you're following correct processes. So I'm sure it's not too much of a leap to think about, well, how do you evidence all of that? You evidence it from the way you use systems. And if your systems are wholly in the process jumps from 5 to 6 systems, it's a lot harder to prove that you've got good governance. So I wouldn't necessarily say that technology is the way that we delivered it, because it would undermine the work that a lot of people put into the actual understanding what the processes needed to be. But the bedrock of delivering it, proving it, enabling it was done through technology. Yeah,
interesting. It reminds me a bit of the golden thread sort of concepts within the Building Safety Act, in terms of, obviously that's come from Grenfell ultimately, but there was a reason for things to be done in a way, and technology is then there as a sort of, well, this needs to be done, this is the way it should be done, tech can help you do it. And it's like, I don't know if it's similar to G1 in some respects, but
in fact I think golden thread is a very big part of the governance ratio as well. I think it's all part of the same methodology.
And you mentioned V2. I think you're V2 and C2 currently. Is that something you're thinking you're trying to get to? Is V1 and C1 will be the goal, and is that what you're trying to get towards?
So, I mean, the ratings aren't my area of expertise, really. From what my understanding is, V2 is acceptable because, especially in the current economic climate, it's an acceptable. And obviously, you'd want to be V1 if you could. But lots of things go into whether it's the right risk appetite and all those sorts of things. Like the customer rating, we were one of I think we were the first large housing association to go through it. And I mean, so we definitely want to get to C1. And it's disappointing that we didn't get C1, frankly. So there's a lot of drive in the organisation to get to C1. Where we know we've got to do better is all about listening to customers, basically, and particularly around complaints. And all of complaints across the sector really get driven from repairs. So we've got a C1 improvement program that says basically make sure complaints get handled, limit complaints, and make sure repairs are great. And so we've got now a vision to become best repairs provider for a large landlord. Essentially, we want to be amazing at delivering repairs. So we want to get to the point where all of those issues that people know about housing and repairs, that we just deal with and we do it right.
And I guess technology can help you get there, done in the right way, can't it, in terms of, sort of speed of response and processes and systems and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that's where so at the moment, we are quite labour intensive in making sure the repairs get done. If we want to deal with the volume of repairs that we deal with, there is two ways to do it. We either just have an army of people doing those repairs and we just carry on throwing it, but that gets really expensive. So if we're truly going to become the best repair service we can be, we need the repair service to be as efficient as we can be. And to be as efficient as we can, automation comes into it. And that is essentially where technology is really good at. And then we start talking about AI, we start talking about proven ways to predict when things are going to go wrong. So if I know a repair is going to go wrong, and I know it's a common repair item, then we should be able to deal with it before it becomes a problem, before a customer is left without water for a couple of days, because that's going to generate, not only it's going to generate a complaint, but it's also left someone without water. The reason they're complaining is because they're left without water for 2 days. So if the repair service can predict that, and we can get into it quicker, and we can make sure the person's on there in the right place at the right time, that's better. Yeah. If we can make sure we don't have failed visits by understanding when customers are going to be in, by making sure that we've got the right parts, it's going to cost less to repair. If we have more control over it, and we know, well, you get the point. There's lots of it. It's kind of, there's 1,000 cuts we can do to make this work more efficiently, and that's service design, it's technology, it's continually, relentlessly improving the processes that we have on our technology systems to make that better. And it's about having the right data at the right place.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if you can talk more about what that's looked like in terms of, have you sort of used data lake to pull things together, or have you just really just reduced outlying tech that just wasn't doing a good job? I mean, just in terms of that sort of architecture, if you like, if you could give us a picture of what that looks like now versus what it was like before.
So again, it's a similar story. So we had, again, the two different sides of the organization. One had large Azure estate, one had a large on-premise estate.
Yeah.
And the on-premise estate hadn't been invested in for a while, and it was going to need a lot of investment to get it up to a standard where we could manage it. So we made the decision to move it to Azure, that kind of story. So that was about, again, consolidating, and that meant we could strip out a lot of complexity by doing that. And for example, so we got rid of Citrix, and that saved us an enormous amount of money. But it's also not about the money. It once you're on Azure, once you've got these systems connected, it becomes much easier to then take the next step and improve it slightly every day. The data lake, we are going to start. We did initial reporting data warehouse and data lake. That we are going a step further now, and we're going to consolidate all of our data, because once you're on Azure, that's the beauty of it. You can then just suck all the data together, make it available, and you create a data structure from that, which then really exponentially improves how quickly you can make improvements, because once the data's known and consistent and trusted, you don't have to re-engineer all of the other gubbins that goes by. You just take that data into the new system and move forward, so you can move along more quickly. So that's the exciting next step for us, is about getting that up and running.
Brilliant. In terms of the sort of team structure you've got, I think that there's two other sort of tech leaders, if you like, in Southern Housing, I believe. It should be good to understand a bit about how your role differentiates from them and how you collaborate together. So what's that structure like of tech leadership?
So we're all under the CFO, and we've got me, a director of technology, I've got a director of data who I've worked with for quite a long time. And we've got a director of change and transformation. Something like that. I always get a job title wrong, but it's essentially change and running the transformation program. And I'd say that the three of us work really closely, daily basis. We're always talking, and so it's a shared vision we've got, and it works really well because I've got two great people that work with us, and we've all got the same vision. So it's not about the roles; it's about making it work for us. And because we all understand digital, we all understand where we want to go, we all understand you need good data quality, we all understand that the technology needs to be seamless and work. We've all got slightly different methodologies, but ultimately, because it's a shared vision, we all contribute the same way, and we'll get us there. So it does work exceptionally well. And housing isn't, like I was saying earlier, it's not a technologically advanced sector. So you need a bit of momentum to make that work. And an organisation the size we are, having three of us that are making the case for digital, making the case for how technology can really be a part of making our customers' lives better.
Yeah.
It works really well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is it? I don't know if that was a sort of a legacy of the merger, or it's just worked out that way better for you guys because it is better. I mean, is it similar in other associations? Do you know, or is it quite unique to? I don't know if you know the answer to that.
I don't know how many housing associations have a director of data. Certainly, the bigger ones do now.
Yeah,
going back even 5 years. Pre-COVID, there wouldn't have been any that had a director of data.
Yeah,
I think the bigger ones do now.
Yeah,
it shows you how much we've come on, and there's a realization that technology is important. So I think the structure of it is, you don't see a CIO position in housing associations, and you don't see technology at the exec table. There are some that do, but it's not the way we do, because housing associations, as much as I'd like to, and I talk about it in cybersecurity, is a big thing that all organisations have to be worried about. But housing associations have to be worried about a Grenfell type incident. They have to be worried about damp and mould. They have to be worried about compliance with government regulations. They have to be worried about, and all of these things, as much as I'd like to say technology is more important than any of those, the truth is it's not. So obviously you can't let buildings degrade and not work. You have to provide good levels of quality to those. So there's lots of regulations around that and make sure I'm building safe. I'd love to be able to say that technology is more important than a lot of other things. The truth is customers are the most important things, and making sure we deliver houses are important things. So there's a real tension about how you can get technology into that. And I think it will come, because how we deliver it will become more and more important for operational activity, but it's a real tension about how we fit it all together.
Yeah. You don't feel there's any challenges with not having a CIO or CTO at that board table in terms of pushing through the things there's definitely
challenges. It definitely I would love to be at the exec table and being able to be part of that decision making. But you have to make whatever work. And like I say, every part of our business relies on technology to deliver it. So the role of director of technology, whether it's on exec or below, doesn't really matter. It's still critical, and it's still a fundamental way of we deliver it. It just means I have to do more work going around the organisation, making sure it all holds together. And as long as the exec board understand that and still value the use of technology, which they do, it's doable.
Looking back over the last year or so, I guess it'd be good to know what progress are you most pleased about in the last sort of 12 to 14 months?
Well, I'd say so much, to be honest, but I think the security movements we've made are the ones that security is always the thing that keeps you awake. And so when you're comfortable that you're doing it as well as you can do, then you sleep better. So security, so frankly, that's something there. And then I look at how reliable our technology stack was. And now it is. Now I look at availability stacks. My infrastructure team, my operational teams have just been going through making it consistently better and better and better. So we have a secure, reliable estate. And then I add on to that, we now understand the business better than we've ever done before, because we go out there and we start talking about what technology can do for them. So all of that level of things, we develop better, we understand the customer better, we're more reliable, and we're secure. So if that's a list of the one thing you wanted, it's a real step.
More than one.
And that's the truth of it. We've moved on so much in the last 2 years. It's all of that.
And has that partly been driven by new people coming in, or actually did you already have the people there and it was just a case of getting together and going, right, there's an action plan here, we've got to push it forward?
I think the crux of it was actually galvanizing the people that were already here. It was the core of it, that we had lots of good people, both sides of the organization, bringing them in, showing them where we wanted to go, and then working through it. We did bring in, so we'd probably say Now we're about a third Optivo, a third SHG, and a third new.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't have enough, so we brought in some more. But it's quite a lot. But actually, I think the people that have come in, they weren't coming in to change what we were doing. They were coming in to enable us to deliver what we knew we wanted to do.
Yeah, I see. Great. And then looking forwards, what opportunities are you most excited about in 2025 and beyond, particularly from a tech perspective, but I guess it could encompass culture and everything else too?
So I think the data lake we're doing, I think that will be transformational. I think it will drive efficiencies and it will enable us to deliver services better.
Yeah.
I think there's a load of really exciting stuff we're doing around repairs that people will see, and it will start making that benefit. And I think that touches on the cultural bit, because what we are here to do is make people's lives nicer. So, and that comes through from technology as well. So to have something like that we can all get behind, really helps. So that's, I think, is the big thing for us. And then if the government gets its 1.5 million houses, I think that's going to be really exciting for us, because you can't do that without social housing. So if we're going to do that, to be part of that and be part of delivering that well, and affordable housing for people as part of that, it's what's not to like.
That'd be great. Yeah, as long as they can get the quality right and everything else.
But that's a whole nother podcast for you there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant, cool. I think that's all we've got time for. We've run over a little bit actually, but thank you for answering all the questions. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed talking to you today. Thanks, Douglas.
Thank you very much.